Alright everybody, this video is sponsored by EA. So that movement that I just did right there, that's what we're going to be teaching is a mantle jump. This is probably the easier version to do right here, but we're going to highlight it in some more complicated areas and discuss why they're trickier. But first I want to break down this movement tech and really break it down so then everyone can understand. I've seen a lot of guides on YouTube, and what's interesting, let's showcase why I'm also covering this. This was actually showcased in an Apex Legends trailer. So the footage right here that you're about to see is a mantle jump that was utilized in a trailer. I thought that was awesome, and we can go recreate that exact movement, and I want to show you how you do it and break it down, and we're going to go into empty servers. So thank you for EA for supplying that server, and hopefully can teach you guys this awesome movement tech. The reason why I'm breaking it down in my own words is I always felt it was a little, I've seen a lot of guides and I felt like they were a little overcomplicated, and then when I finally was able to essentially dumb it down for me to understand, I'm trying to share it because then, I mean, if I can do it, I think anybody can, because I'm not necessarily always the most gifted or talented individual. So essentially, we break down this movement tech, and we're going to showcase it going back and forth. And, you know, the better you get at it, the more reliable you can be on doing it. So practice makes perfect. So let's break down this movement tech and understand how this works from the ground up. Now, the first line of movement that anybody does is that, you know, you get on the zip line. The movement that you're doing whenever you're at the top of the zip line is essentially a super zip line jump. That is, if you're using it, and I don't have my overlay here because I want you to understand this is more of like universal. What you're trying to do here is you hit interact and then you press jump at the same exact time. If you are on mouse and keyboard, this is a lot easier to do because you can time that, right? Now, the reason I'm highlighting this is that once you're up here, you want to be holding the ledge. So once you hold the ledge, I'm going to showcase this now in third person and why this movement tech works. I think when you understand the why, this will click very much for you. So you climb up, and if you do this in slow motion and you back up just a little bit, your character will float. So what you're doing is tricking the game whenever you look down. So I'm going to go back into first person so you can see this, where the game then thinks that you're still floating, and therefore you can still do this movement tech slower and has to be a bit fast in timing of where your body is essentially suspended in air so you can do a super zip line jump forward. Now the timing of this is different depending on the ledge, because you have to look down, and having some momentum does help it become a lot more consistent. And then afterwards, you can add a lot more flair and a lot more movement to this. And then once you do it right, then it clicks and you can fence, do a lot more stuff. You can tap strafe off of it. You know, a lot of more fancy movement tech things. So let's break this down again. You zip up. You want to be on the ledge right here, and you hold it. As you're climbing, you want to back up just a little bit, but as you're backing up, you want to look down so you can look at the zip line. You can also look up, because when you look up, you can also grab the zip line. See how you have the little prompt there? Essentially, you're looking to look down so you can grab the prompt. And the faster you do it, or you have a flow to it, the more successful you're going to be with this mantle jump. So one more time, you zip up. You have the ledge. The timing of this is important. If you want to break this down further, what I would do is constantly stop and grab. Go up, stop and grab. Go up, stop and grab. And then work on the other two part after the fact once you get this, because then you can just piece it together and time it and work on it. If you change sensitivities, it doesn't kind of change the timing and flow a little bit, because you do need to look down at a precise time. Now, there are ledges that we have here that are not as easy to do because you don't necessarily end it and then it automatically climbs. So the timing of this is a little harder and a lot faster. So that's where that timing is just a little bit more difficult just to master. And that's okay. We you know, it's just a thing that you have to practice and work on. What we're going to do now is I'm going to go to World's Edge and look at the most difficult one to master and discuss why that is so hard and why the timing of it is just a little bit different. But remember, it's all about grabbing that ledge and then looking down, and then looking down, and then looking down, and trying to make sure you get the prompt, or look up, depending on which one. I do believe that most people have said looking up is easier, but for my brain, unfortunately, looking down just makes a little bit more sense. By moving up, I always tend to get the timing wrong, and I just can't pulling down is just a little bit easier for me to do it. Now, what we're going to do, let's go in the custom server and let's highlight World's Edge where the timing is a little more difficult. And what happens on those timings is that your head actually hits and you actually have to pull down a little bit more. So it's a little more tricky. Let's break that down and let's segue now. Now, it's very interesting whenever you hit these areas. There's different movement tech, but I'm just going to keep it for the most simplistic one. A lot of people who know advanced movement will watch this, but this whole purpose of this video is that it's more for, you know, the average person, well, I guess like myself, to try to understand this movement tech. Now, the trickier part with this is how much faster this is. Now, when you mistime this one, and then you don't time it right, you either, you know, you fall, and then you, well, of course, now I'm getting all the timing right. Come on, Daz, do it incorrectly. You hit the top of that exit sign when you do it incorrectly. I've done this one so many times that I'm trying to, like, get it. You can also kind of, like, edge it over, which I'm trying to do incorrectly. There we go. You kind of like pause in place because you're hitting the upper part of the sign. Notice that my dip is a little bit lower. And there we go. See where it's like, the dip has to be a little lower or else you hit the top of the sign. So the timing is a lot stricter on this. There we go. And it has a certain flow and a feel to it for it to really work. So again, reminder, I'm going to keep repeating it many times, is that when you practice this, you stop and you hit the ledge. And you want to be able to, when you hit the ledge, to climb it. And then you climb up and you look down and then you bounce by looking down. So let's break down that movement one last time. You hold, you climb, but also simultaneously backing up a little bit so you kind of fall. Or that, remember when you're suspended in air, that moment when you're suspended, right? And then you have to get the zip line, whether you look up or down, and you hit it, and then you press that super zip line jump, right? And you interact, and then you, boom, you're good. So that's why I say the super zip line jump, like we mentioned before, and then you got to time it really well for this one. You see how I hit the sign very specifically there, and I'm hitting it. So it's a lot tighter, the timing. It's because I'm trying to do it wrong, and now I'm doing it wrong over and over again. But I guess that's a good example. Now let's go recreate the trailer footage. Remember that super zip line. If you have trouble with it, a friendly reminder, again, if you don't know how to get the timing of that zip line, just do this over and over again. Interact, jump. Interact, jump. You can stand next to it. You don't even have to do anything else. Interact, jump. Interact, jump. And then if you don't get it, then when it looks right, you fly up in the air. When you do it wrong, it looks like this, and you kind of propel forward. You want to be able to, you know, interact, jump. Interact, jump. And all you do is you piece all of it together, and it's going to take some time. It took me a little bit of time to nail it. And you can reclimb this and then try to get it right. But ideally, if you're being chased, you don't really want to do that. But it can be helpful, and you add a tap strafe into it. So let's go into stacks, because that building did move here, and I want to go recreate that moment that you saw from the trailer. Let's go take a look. I keep hitting the side of this. It's not working. Oh, there we go. I got it. Alrighty, so I'm going to be honest, that was not easy to do. Then it wasn't exactly perfect, but it mirrored it pretty close. The hard part is that every mantle that you do has a different timing. Remember how I mentioned how this one, especially in the trailer, is impressive movement. Whenever you stop, you don't climb immediately. So the timing is a little bit different compared to one where you can actually climb. So in World's Edge, whenever you have the monument section, it's a lot easier to pull off that movement tech than right here, because you have to essentially pull back. And even what's harder is the timing, because you'll end up kind of hitting up and you'll hit this. So you have a few things that are working against you here that are a little difficult. But remember, the biggest thing that I can always remind is just make sure you practice the timing and isolate movement out. So what that movement is that it was a super zipline jump. You have to really hit it back far, or else you go flying right like you did right there. So spinning it in, kind of tap strafing in. I know controller will have a little bit harder of a time to do that, which is, you know, I guess the unfortunate circumstance. But make sure you kind of hone it in, and then you can stop it by hitting crouch right here, but then you need to climb and move forward immediately. If you don't, you're just going to freeze in place, and you need to climb, but then look down immediately. And that timing is really tight. So, you know, the person who did that movement tech, even right there, it is a very tight timing. I'm going to be honest. So that was a very impressive movement. And then also what happens is if you do it too late, you literally kick up inside of here and almost feels like you'd be like teleporting, like, I don't know, you spawn elsewhere. It's pretty weird. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Guys, thank you so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully this helps you out. The mantle jumping, that whenever I broke it down this way for others, it seems to have helped them. I didn't put overlays because I wanted to make sure that people universally, whether you're in controller or MNK, found this helpful. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, everybody.